right, this is episode 89 of the Rhody Rumble podcast. Today we have a very special guest. This is a way overdue interview. He's a friend of the program, Rhode Island native from Johnston, obviously a Rhode Island College alumni, a URI graduate. He's the host of Cam's Corner on YouTube. So go check it out if you haven't already. Just had CJ Miles, NBA veteran, on. Great interview. Just watched it last night. Again, go check it out. I'm going to link all of that below. He is also on his way to Joplin, Missouri pretty soon. He's going to be the sports reporter and anchor for KSN KODE. My guy, Cam Iasimone. Cam, thanks so much for taking the time. Congrats on all the success. How are you today?
Adam, man, what an introduction. That was great. No, I appreciate you for having me on. Yeah, you're right. It's been long overdue. I've been a big fan of the Rhody Rumble. Honestly, was like an inspiration for Camp's Corner. Like I remember you were one of the first people to tour me around URI, and I was trying to get into the podcast scene. I didn't really know a lot about it. I didn't know like if there were any Rhode Island podcasts, and yours was popping off at the time, and it still is. So all props to you, and I appreciate you for having me. Doing well, getting ready to go out to Joplin. Excited to talk and kind of recap the last few years with you, man.
For sure. Yeah. Again, congrats on all the success. We're going to get into all of it, I promise. And again, for those who don't know, who may be watching this interview, so I've known Cam now for about 3 years. So I want to say it was either 2021 or 22. I know it was my junior year at URI. He was at Rhode Island College. It's a funny story, so I'm going to tell it. You kind of already mentioned it, but there were probably so I was a junior at URI. I know I was the FM sports director for WRU at the time, so we were always looking to get people. At the time, there were only like 3 Rhode Island-based podcasts.
Hmm.
So we all kind of met online and we all kind of recorded different things online. We were always kind of recording content and like, different episodes for each other's shows.
Mhm.
Um, but really, you had messaged me one day and had mentioned that you were planning on transferring from Rhode Island College to the Harrington program, the Harrington
Mhm.
school. We agreed to do a tour on campus. So I think I tried my best to take you around to everything in like an hour.
Mm.
But a year later, the rest was history. I was a senior, you were a junior, and we were calling games together on ESPN Plus and WRIU. So it's kind of crazy how stuff like that works out. But yeah, man, congrats on the success, and to see you kind of come from that point to now, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, man. No, it's like you said, it's kind of crazy how everything happens in a full circle. I didn't know how to get into any of those programs like you, Kyle Standing, Zach Austin, Nathan Robillard, Aiden Garvey. There's like a ton of them. There's some probably miss
Yeah.
Ania Khan, Okan, Paige Messier, like just everyone that I call games with. Noah McLean, good buddy of yours, I know. I
Yep.
mean, there's just so many people that like help me out. Like I'm not myself, or I'm not who I am now without the people that have like supported or helped me out, open doors in any kind of way. So props to them, props to you, and thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, man. I think it's always important to give back. And I remember being, it's tough, like especially that year for me, because that was my junior year, like I said, and we're gonna get into Rhode Island College and your decision to transfer and all of that.
Mm.
But really for me, I had just started freshman year 2019 into 2020. We went away for spring break. We go home, and then all of a sudden things shut down. The world is shut down for COVID. Um, Come back the next year and there's nothing going on. And that was really the year that I decided to do something like this, because it's important to, create opportunities for yourself and create a platform for yourself to keep the reps going and continue to, produce content, promote content. And then flash forward junior year, I step into this role. I've only called just a few games with WRIU. I called like maybe 2 men's basketball games sophomore year and maybe 1 or 2 women's basketball games my freshman year. Junior year, I step into this role, and my task is to start recruiting people and to networking with people that I probably should have met earlier on when I was an underclassman, but because of the pandemic, everything was shut down. So you named a great roster of people right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's always important to give back, and I was happy to do it. And again, it's great to see it's paid off for you, and you're on your way to again accomplishing amazing things down the road. So that's awesome.
Yeah, dude, like you said, like perfect timing. Like you were kind of getting back into a rhythm, and I was looking to get out of Rhode Island College, not like in a bad way, but
Yeah.
I just wanted better opportunities. And I saw like online, like closer to like the end of my sophomore year, like oh, like the again Rhody Rumble, the like what the programs are like down at URI. Like I think your review was just getting started up when like students were getting
Yep.
on like TV reps, and I'm like, this is like pretty sick. Like I get to call, or I would have the opportunity to call like A10 basketball, or even
Yep.
whatever sport it was, baseball, softball, you name it. But I was like, I have to figure out how to do this some way. So, I mean, it all worked out in the end, which is crazy.
For sure. Definitely did. I want to get into your background first. Again, you're from Johnston, Rhode Island. I know you played basketball in high school, and we're going to get into all of that. A lot of the questions I have for you are about this time in your life. I've obviously gotten to know you over time, and this was a very important time in your life. Definitely left a big impact on you, and is a reason I think you are the person you are today.
For sure.
What was the moment for you that you realized you fell in love with sports? Was it in high school playing basketball that you eventually wanted to try and play at the collegiate level or beyond professionally, or just end up working in the sports industry?
Yeah, I honestly, like we talked like before with the pod about CJ. I told CJ this story the other day. It was more so, I want to say, because when I was in like elementary school, like early middle school, like sixth grade, like fifth, sixth grade, like that, like I'm still a kid. I wasn't really into sports how like all my friends now were. Like I didn't really know them until I started playing basketball. Like they were my former teammates and they're still my friends to this day. But I didn't really know any of them yet. So I was kind of like still a kid, like into like Nintendo and all like the video games and whatnot. And I wasn't really locked into sports yet. So um, I want to say when I met Dan Mazzula in seventh grade, well, I would say sixth grade. So I tried out. I didn't make it. I wasn't like athletic enough. I wasn't in like the best, obviously, shape as a 12-year-old or what is it, 13, 14. But when that sixth grade summer into seventh grade, I lost like so much weight. I like my hands were like down to my knees. Like I just like I was like an awkward build, but I was like skinny and like I don't know, like I developed like a jump shot somehow. Like over the summer, I was like I don't know, I was into basketball a little bit more. Um, just from like again playing rec and doing all these things, and I was like, I'm starting to kind of like actually gain a liking for this. And I was playing baseball at the time, and I wasn't really too fond of baseball as much, but I met Danny sixth grade. I remember how hard he told me I had to work if I really wanted this, and I really didn't want it in sixth grade, and then kind of like backtracked. I'm like, you know what, like this could be like something because I didn't really have anything. I didn't have like again athletic ability. I didn't have any of that stuff where I could be like, oh, talk about sports like nonstop how we do now. But
Yep.
um, long story short, and like how I met Dan was that, and then seventh grade made the team. Didn't really play a lot. Obviously, I was in seventh grade, but then eighth grade, a lot of the seniors left. So like the senior class that I had, or I'm sorry, the eighth graders left it, but the senior class I had in 2020 was like the eighth grade class I had in middle school. So like we had like 10 eighth graders, and then like obviously senior year was like 10 seniors. So like we had a big class. We had guys that were in the system for a while, and Danny kind of just took us under his wing. Like that summer after seventh grade, he's like, "Do you want to come work at the rec? Do you want to come ref games? Do you want to do some maintenance, mow some lawns, like line up some baseball fields?" And we're like, "Yeah, sure." Like we're like 13, 14 years old. Like we'd love to, make some extra money. So that's how the bond kind of came, and like how I got closer with Dan, and then um yeah, like he just made me fall in love with the game. Like he made me fall in love with like the hard work part of it. Like I loved basketball. Like I started to love basketball and religiously watched the Knicks, as I'm sure you did too as a kid. But
Of course.
um,
As hard as it was, but yeah.
yeah, for sure. Like I
Yeah.
was. That's why like Carmelo. I was even telling CJ
Yeah.
like Carmelo was my favorite player. So being able to talk with him about stories about Carmelo, but yeah, like that was when I started to fall in love. Like I would say like seventh, eighth grade when I really got to know Danny and like um his mentality and like the hard work that he put behind it. That's when I was like, okay, I want to take this in stride.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And I'm glad you mentioned Dan and the impact that he had on you, because the next two questions are really just about him, and what he did for you and the lessons that you learned from him. So again, I've mentioned you're from Johnston. You played basketball in high school. You had the privilege again of playing for Coach Dan Mazzula, and you mentioned a little bit about that just before. Obviously, for those who don't know, I mean, you should know the name by now, but he's
Mm.
obviously the father of Boston Celtics head coach Joe. His younger brother Justin was a grad assistant at URI, is now off working in the Utah Jazz organization. So we're gonna get into the documentary next and all of that, and your process behind that. But first, talk to me a little bit about Coach Dan. You mentioned it a little bit before and how much he really pushed you and your
Mm.
teammates, but just talk to me a little bit about the type of person he was and obviously the huge impact that he left on you. What was Dan like, and what were some of the lessons you took away from your time with him?
Yeah, I mean, he was like demanding, but in a good way, like somebody that you would respect.
Right.
even when I didn't really know him, like obviously my dad knew him from living in Johnston for a while. Like when I was born, my mom and dad moved to Johnston. And like he knew the name. So like when I was in like again like younger, like fourth, fifth grade, I was just playing rec. He would say, "Oh, there's Dan Mazzula." Because like he was such a big name in the town, like everybody knew who he
Yeah.
was. I'm like
Yeah.
rightfully so, right? So, I'm a little kid. I'm like I don't know who that is. Like I didn't really care. And then, but now like so when he would walk into the rooms, I remember or like the gyms wherever we were at, my dad would be like, "Oh, like he would never like go say hi because he didn't have any relations to him at that point." But I always remember like my dad kind of like you know being like everybody in the room like knew that Danny was there, even if they didn't go and say hi to him. So when I was older and I realized that, I was like, okay, like everybody respects Dan to a level where, even in like the documentary, a lot of people like they just stand up tall or like they're just on like their best behavior when he's in the room, but like in a good way.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like, anything like ill intentional. Like he just had that, aura, I guess. And, it was more so when I was like a player for him, I just wanted to always show him that I was working my hardest, even if I wasn't playing well or if I was in a slump shooting wise or whatever it was, that I was putting my best foot forward. So, um, and like I could just tell, like, so when we left eighth grade, he coached eighth grade, and then so long before he was like a big high school girls coach at Johnston,
Okay.
and he was there for a while. So then he retired from that in like 2011. Um, and then I think like a few years after, when Justin actually was in middle school. So Justin's like I think like 3 or 4 years older than us.
Okay.
So that's when he started coaching the boys at the middle school. And then after my eighth grade year, he came up with us to the high school level, along with my principal at the time in middle school. So it's like those people, and again, my principal was kind of like the same way as Danny. Like they just had like that way about them. Like they were demanding and they were like strict, but they were like super respected. And like you wanted to hear what they had to say because you wanted to like better yourself because like you respected their opinion.
Yeah.
Um, and so they came up with us eighth grade year to high school. They were with us like our whole high school careers. And um like again, we're just building that relationship with him like every year, freshman year, seeing how like much we worked in the summer and like what we did at the parks and stuff. Like the more and more work we did for him, and like he would never say it, but I felt like he had like some kind of feeling towards like my group of guys as far as like leadership. Like I feel like he looked at me as a leader in a way because before he got sick, he named me captain my senior year, so junior summer heading into senior year. Like he got me and a few of my buddies, and he's like, we want you to run the team, blah blah blah. And I was like, okay, like all those years kind of like paid off. Like I could tell like he could always like looked at me like that in a way, but he would never say it. Danny would never be a type of person to be like, oh, good job, give you a high five. But if he was ripping into you and he was yelling at you, like you like that he cared because he wanted you to do better. But if he wasn't, then like it's like, all right, what did I do? Like, what's he thinking? Like, I didn't know, like, what if he didn't say anything? I was like, all right, did I do good? Or like, I don't know. But when he was ripping into me and he was yelling at me, I'm like, okay, like, he just wants me to do better. Like, it was never like ill intentional. Like I said, it was like always just keep working. Like, he would pull me out of a game, scream at me in front of the whole gym, like the whole entire gym, like, you got to get back on defense. You got to run harder. And then he put me back at this at the table, be like, all right, go back in. Like, that's how quick it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the type of relationship we had. Like he was just always had my best interest.
It's pretty remarkable. And again, we're gonna get into the documentary now, which I watched, and I mean, you did a phenomenal job depicting his life. I feel like I
Thank you.
really had a great. I feel like I knew him. I feel like I played for him. I feel like
Yeah.
we had a relationship because you did a great job at just telling the story. Um, but I think it's pretty cool that you mentioned, your relationship with him was almost like tough love.
Mm,
Like he was going to yell at you and he was going to discipline you, but he really loved you and he loved all your teammates and the team itself. And he just wanted you guys to succeed and do the best you can. He knew he can unlock your true potential, but he knew that he kind of had to get it out of you guys. So
mm.
by doing that, it may have come off as like, what are you doing? Like yelling
Yeah,
and
yeah.
screaming, but really it was just to try and, get you to work harder. And that's, in my opinion, I played tennis growing up and I did have coaches and stuff like that, you know, I used to train on like Saturday afternoons and, go to like lessons and practice and they would make you do the same thing over and over and over again until you got it right. And that's just the best way to learn, in any sport that you play. So I think that's pretty cool that you kind of had that relationship with him.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like I didn't want to be in the documentary just because I wanted other people to share their story. And like, I could have I had a ton of stories obviously to share about them, but
Yeah.
I kind of I wanted to be like the brain behind it, just kind of putting it all together. And I never did it to be like, oh, like I knew Dan and like now that Joe's like in the NBA, like, oh, I this is why I'm doing it. Like it was never for like
No,
a
no.
publicity stunt or whatever like
Right.
people want to say. And like they never said that. I'm just saying like that was never my intentions. My intentions was to do it for the family. Was to be able to look back at something and be like, I'm glad I got to say this final goodbye, because during COVID it was tough because uh he passed away in April. And the schools shut down. Like we were in this is our senior year of high
Yeah.
school. I think you were a freshman at URI.
Yep.
But so like our school shut down like March 13th, and then that next month he passed away on the 22nd of April. So
Wow.
like
Yeah.
we're like I remember my mom came downstairs. I'm in my room, like just kind of like talking to my friends, and um she's like, "Oh yeah, Coach Dan passed away." And I'm like, "Oh my God, wow." Like it didn't really hit me. Like because we're so close with the family, like I don't think anybody else knew except probably like my best friend Jeremy, who was his nephew. So we're kind of like, I mean, I wasn't talking to him at that time, like when my mom told me, but I'm like, wow, like that's great. Like we knew he was battling like the whole entire year. We would see him at every game. Like he was just gaining weight, and like you could tell it was like the sickness. Wasn't really able to talk, but
Yeah.
um it didn't hit me until uh like a day or two, maybe like probably like 2 or 3 days after. Cause like then all my friends were like, "Do you guys want to go for a drive?" Because again, this is COVID. Like we couldn't hang out places. We couldn't really go anywhere to
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough.
get food. So we went. It was like me, Jeremy, my best friend Tom, Jay. Oh no, not Jay wasn't there. It was Tom, Anthony Tavares, Justin Powell, and Jeremy Mazzula, and we were all in Jeremy's car. And we just like drove around the whole town, drove around the entire town of Johnston, drove around almost like the whole state too, for a few hours, just like damn, this is crazy. We were breaking down, but like that's when it hit us like Dan gave us this like bond for life. Like
Yeah.
we're all gonna be best friends for life because of him. Like we grew up with him. We grew up on those teams where, times were tough. Those practices where we didn't have basketballs, we're just running up and down the court the whole time. But he created that, and I'm sure he did that for a ton of people. So that's
Sure.
why I wanted to interview like 40, 50 people that weren't in my generation. Like there was like, older people there. There were people that played with him in Chile, people that played in high school with him. So
Yep.
it's a different dynamic. It's a different perspective. So I think that was like the story I wanted to tell, and then kind of translate that and transition it into his kids, um, later years, like kind of like my group. So it kind of started like with his old players, like how he was as a player, like his family talking about him, his sisters, and then it got into like the rec opening and coaching, and more so like the rec, like the maintenance stuff that I was telling you about. And um no, I think it was a great, I mean that time was tough, like junior year, trying to get an internship, but running around the whole like New England area just to get interviews was cool. And like it was cool to see like prevail like in front of like I want to say like 300 people, a little close to 300 people,
Yeah.
at the rec center that he built that's now named after him. So it's cool.
Amazing. It's an amazing story. And that's my next question is just about that documentary and your process and obviously how special, it was for you to be able to do a screening there.
Mm,
So again, unfortunately, Dan passed away in 2020. You got into a little bit of that and how, obviously affected you and the community, obviously your friends and teammates. So Cam, you made and produced and edited, and we've talked about it, this amazing documentary, and it really does a great job again depicting Dan's life. It's up on your YouTube channel. So again, if you're watching this, please go and show some love to it. I've seen it. It's absolutely amazing, and very well done, very well put together. Again, it's amazing how close you've become with the Mazzula family, and how your teammates became a family in itself as well, and how you were able to share this moment. And I look at it as more of a celebration of Dan's
mm,
life. So not only that you were able to bring the community together, but you actually had again this screening at the rec center for the documentary when it was released, and this got coverage, across the state. Obviously, friends and family were there. Local stations, ABC6 and Ian Steele were there. Again, friends and family. It was really, I'm sure, a special night for you. So, I guess one, how did the idea? Because I remember you had mentioned it to me when we were broadcasting a game one night. I'm putting
yeah.
together this documentary. I thought, wow, it's really cool. I would love to work on a documentary someday, but you can't just sit down and say I'm going to do a documentary and you know
Yeah.
I'm sure tons of hours and work and research and finding some of these people to interview went into this process, but how did the idea really come together, that you wanted to do this documentary and that you were going to be able to make it work? And then a second part to that question, what was it like to be able to share that moment, to share your work with Dan's family, friends, and really the Johnston community when you were showing it at the rec center?
Yeah. So I'm trying to think of like the time frame of when stuff happened, but I know my first interview was in October that year, at the Ryan Center. I remember like Trippie Redd was playing at the Ryan Center, and Justin Mazzula was my first interview. And so I'll tell you this before, like I'm trying to think of like how it happened, but I remember my first interview was there with Justin.
Yeah.
So we go in, we go to like the suite upstairs. And the lighting's kind of off, but I'm trying to figure out, like, I'm trying to get like that aesthetic documentary background. And I'm like, this is my first one. I got to figure out, how I got great questions. I know I got great questions. I went over it with the family, went over it with Justin. So I'm like, oh, there's no like lighting here, like backgrounds, nothing. So he's like, you want to move? I'm like, yeah, sure, we'll move. And again, mind you, that concert was that night. So they're like banging, they're like putting stuff up. This was like, I don't know, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, great, perfect time to do this, right? When there's like a bunch of people talking and all this stuff's going on. The mic ended up not working that I had attached to Justin. So I'm like, when I went back, I'm like, oh my God, it's not even like the Nat sound. It's just like or it is the Nat sound. It's just from the camera. It's not from the mic. And, but I mean, looking back at it, like when my first interview, I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be a shit show just because like the sound wasn't the best. And it didn't like diminish my confidence, but like backtracking off of that, from like how the idea kind of started. I don't know where I was. I remember I was honestly the only thing I remember is I was on the phone with my dad and I was driving by my high school. I don't know where I was coming from. I'm trying to remember, but I was talking to him and I was driving. Like, it was at night. I was driving by my high school, and because this was when I was kind of going back and forth, like living at URI and going back home before I like was there full time, my first year. And I'm like, Dad, I think I want to do a documentary on Danny. Like, I've been thinking about it. Like, there's just like now that Joe has this like position with the Celtics, like it would be a great story, not only for Joe to talk a little bit about like what that time was for him, but just like the whole family in general. Like the family in general in Johnston is just so monumental and so historic. Like everybody knows the Mazzulas. And like if you're from here, now everybody knows the Mazzulas worldwide because of Joe. So like it was just like
Yeah.
perfect timing. So I was like, the 3-year anniversary of him passing away is coming up, which was at the time. Now it's 4 years, which is nuts. But that there was like the 3-year anniversary was coming up. I'm like, it was probably like September. I'm like, I can work like whatever it was, 8, 9 months, however long it was, and just like grind out these interviews, think of like the editing process, and then like on the 22nd, I can premiere it at the rec. I think that'd be awesome for like the town. Because when he passed away, like I was telling you, he didn't really have a goodbye. It was like a closed funeral because of family because there wasn't a lot of availability for people to come in because of COVID. And then I remember watching Joe's eulogy like on Facebook Live. Like it was like this doesn't feel right. Like I wish I was like there.
Yeah.
We all went. A few people went to the wreck, not a lot, like to watch like his car drive by with his casket in it. But like it was like it wasn't the proper way to say goodbye. And then like they had like his name revealed on like a little plaque in front of the rec, like this is the Dan Mazzula Rec Center. They didn't have it like on like the street yet, and they just did it recently. But I was like, he deserves more than this. Like I know he probably wouldn't want it, but he deserves more than this. So I think that was like the idea behind it. And then after interviewing Justin, came back home and bounced back and forth from URI to Johnston to Connecticut to wherever, Mass, just to get these interviews in from people, do Zooms from people in like Chile. Like he played overseas in Chile, so like
Yeah.
some of his teammates speaking broken English and whatnot, and they're like asking me, how do I know Danny? What am I doing for this? Why am I recording them on Zoom? Um, but yeah, they didn't really understand it at first because I would get like numbers from Dan's daughter Gianna, who was a
Okay.
huge help. Like the whole family
Yeah.
was a huge help. But she gave me a lot of numbers to like reach out to as far as like players that he played with, Bryant, whatever. Coaches. I talked to his old college coach, which was nuts. I'm like, I don't know, like just people like that were super cool because like it's a different perspective. Like I said, it's not like it's my group of guys where like I grew up with them, so I know their stories and I know what
Yeah.
their mindset is. It's like these people, like I wasn't even born, obviously, when they were with Danny. Like they're just so like Danny was I want to say like in his early 60s. 60 years, that's a long time. I mean, it's still
Wow.
young for someone to pass
Yeah, I
away,
mean,
but so much generations passed by, especially in
yeah.
Johnston. Like everyone knows everybody in Johnston, but
I
um,
feel like everyone knows everyone in Rhode Island.
exactly. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Like I was talking to that about that with my girlfriend the other day. She's like, everywhere you go, people know you. I'm like, because Rhode Island's like a 40-minute drive up and down. That's why everyone.
Yeah. But with the
Um,
speed limits and traffic, it's like an hour, hour and a half. So
oh, it's the worst. Yeah. Pitch
yeah.
traffic, all that. But
Yep.
to your second
Yep.
question, like the day
Yeah.
of, um, yeah, like so it took kind of like that, like a week or two before. I was still like editing it. I was like, I don't know what to do. I remember April 6th was the day I put out the trailer, and that's all I had. And like the thing was due, like I was premiering it on the 22nd. So like, roughly like 2 weeks or whatever it was. And I'm like, that's all I have is this 2-minute trailer. I'm like, what am I gonna do? Like this, like I have no idea how I want to pan this out. Like I have a rough like draft on how I want to do it, but I'm like, man, all I have is 2 minutes. But then uh like Ian, like the newspaper was calling me up and they were like, can we do an interview on this? Like I want to, like the people, his name was Pete Fontaine. He actually just recently passed away as well, but he did a paper. I have it hung up in my room. Like my dad get me a gift. He plaqued it, the article that they made. Just like, oh, Iasimone premieres documentary on, long-term mentor or whatever it was. And then, like the sports hub, like they were talking to Joe one day and Joe was plugging it on the sports hub. They're like, oh, our former intern, Cam Iasimone,
That's awesome.
yeah,
That's so
like they were
cool.
talking about
Yeah.
it with Joe, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? So I'm like, all right, now I have to lock in. Now I gotta like finish it.
Yeah.
Um,
That's great.
so then, yeah, like you interned with Nick and Ian at 6. I actually got a call the week before that on my birthday on the March 31st. Nick calls me. He's like, Cam, you got the internship. And I tell this story not to, no, I'm not throwing shade at no one at all. Like I just tell it because I think it's funny now to look back at. But
Yeah.
uh, he called me. He's like, Cam, you got the internship. And again, Nick and Ian, I'm sure to you too. Like they're just super, super great mentors and
They were.
super
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah.
But long story short, like they just didn't have whatever it was to run the internship program anymore. So like then Nick had to call me like that day or like 2 days before I put the trailer out. It's like, oh, Cam, I'm so sorry to tell you, but like we can't have you on as an intern. I'm like, oh, it's all right. But I'm like, I got this thing going for me. I'm gonna put my head down. We were calling baseball games at the time too, so I'm like, I
Yep.
got a lot going. Keep my
Highs and
head down.
lows. Highs and
Yeah,
lows. Yeah.
keep going. So I put that
Yeah.
trailer out. All that happens, and then Maury calls me and he's like, "We're gonna bring you on at 12." So like everything just happened like at once, and I'm like,
Wow.
wow. And then to see that prevail at the like a few like there wasn't a lot of people. Like it started at 3, and there wasn't a lot of people coming in at 3. I'm like, oh my god, no one's gonna come. Like what is going on? And then like 5 minutes goes by in the blink of an eye. Like I'm talking to Ian to do an interview for the news, and I'm like on court. So there's court 1, court 2, and court 3. So we're on court 2, kind of facing like the wall, and he's got the light on me, so I can't really see. I can only see like him kind of looking out of the camera. And then we interview, and then Justin does it. In the blink of an eye, I turn over, and like the whole gym is packed on court 1. I'm like, oh my god, like this is insane. And Josh Paiva, again, a huge guy, like he's been helping me out so much. The Paiva visuals, he does a lot with URI men's basketball. He's like their content guy. He documented the whole day for me. Was following me around the whole day with a mic, and um, I felt like a celebrity. Like it was like for me, but like again,
Yeah.
I didn't want it to be like that. Like I wanted it to be for the
Oh
family. But
yeah.
I'm so glad I got to be like the brains behind it, and then celebrating with my friends afterwards at night was great. So that was like a unforgettable day.
Yeah, I can imagine. And again, I remember when you first told me about this project, and I just thought, wow, this is incredible. You've spoken about Dan for as long as I've known you, and for
Mm,
you to be able to publish something like this, and again, share it with not only your friends and your teammates who you experienced this time with Dan with, and your family and his family, and also just the community itself. Again, I'm sure seeing everybody walk into the rec center was just such a rewarding feeling for you. Like I was saying, I don't even know like how many hours you must have put into something like this to be able
mm,
to get it out in 8 9 months. I mean, some documentaries take years to come out, and they're still being worked on,
mm,
even when they do come out. So to seriously, it's extremely impressive, and obviously not easy to do. So
mm.
you really depicted Dan's life in a great way. And like I said, I never had the pleasure of knowing him or playing for him, but I felt like I knew everything about him through this documentary, and it was very special to watch. I actually watched it when it first came out, and I watched it like a couple months after that too. I just wanted to kind of refresh on it. And again, it's every time I watch it, it's great. So again, if you haven't watched it, Cam's Corner, check it out, please.
Thank
Last
you. Thank
question
you.
about Dan. Do you
Yeah.
have a favorite? You didn't share any stories or any memories during the documentary itself.
Mm,
You kind of said you didn't want to make it about you and put yourself in the documentary, but
yeah.
do you personally have a favorite memory or story about Dan that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I kind of got two. I'll give you like a quick one for like as far as playing wise. There was one game. This is like just defined like who Dan was. We like I think it was at home. It might have been home. No, I think it was away because of how like shocked everybody was when they saw it. Um, it was like my starting five, like my junior year, whoever it was. I was in the starting five, and we come out. We were playing terrible the first like honestly, it was probably only like 2-3 minutes. And then I see Dan wave to the bench. He's going like this. So he's getting another group of five. So I'm like, all right, we're getting subbed out and we're gonna get it. He's gonna pour into us. Um, but again, that was the best part. Everyone in the documentary said that was the best part about Dan is when he poured
Yeah.
into you. But we're like, oh God, here we go. So we go to the bench and he's just pointing to the baseline. And we're like, what? He's like, get on the baseline and do 50 push-ups. And we're like right now? He's like, right now. And I'm like, oh my God. So when he says right now, I can just feel everybody looking at us as we're walking to the baseline. Like the five of us just get down and start doing 50 push-ups as the game's going on.
I was gonna say the game is still going and you're doing
Yeah.
push-ups along the baseline. That's
This
crazy.
is the first half, the first 2-3 minutes of the half. Like we're on the baseline just doing like push-ups. Um, And like there'd be some practices where like he'd be on the phone, just like he would always be talking to somebody on the phone. Like when we first got there. So like usually like the first few minutes, like he'd want us to stretch out a lot. He would want us to like again like a lot of conditioning to start off practice, but sometimes like he'd be on the phone. So like we had this drill on the court where like we'd start at the corner of the 3-point line. So like or like kind of like the corner of the court right before out of bounds, and we would like do defensive slides to the elbow of the free throw line, sprint to half court, zigzag back to the other elbow, and then run back to the other corner. So like we have to do it like fast, like game speed. And like when he'd be on the phone, kind of walking away, we would just kind of like walk through it or like run past the lines and like stuff like that. I'm like I look back at it and like I wish I didn't do because even like when a coach isn't looking, it's like he is looking because like you're putting in that work. But as a kid, like it was funny. Like all of us would do it and just like just like run off the lines. Um, but yeah, sometimes some practices were just bad. Like no balls, like just like conditioning the whole time, 2.5 hours, whatever it was. But my favorite memory of Dan was actually when he was sick. So like my senior year, like he wasn't coaching. Um, but the coach at the time didn't really take a liking to me for some reason my senior year. So it was a tough year playing wise, but towards the end I had to take like I couldn't really like I was a kid. I was 18. I didn't want to do it anymore. So I was like, Dan's not here. This isn't right. Like my teammates, like I didn't really feel like a connection as I did like throughout the year. So like the last game, I don't know. I snapped and kind of just left. I didn't play. So like I only probably didn't play for the team for like 2 days because of Dan. So the day after, or maybe like 2 days after, like I said, I get a call. Um, and I look at my phone and it says Coach Dan. And I'm like, I know like Dan's like not to be like morbid, but like on his deathbed, kind of like he couldn't really talk. He was just like out of it. And it says Coach, the caller ID says Coach Dan. I'm like, there's no way this is him. It's probably Gianna or Justin, whoever. So I answer it and I go, hello. And like, I hear like a mumbling and I'm like, coach. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, hey, what's up, coach? And he's like, oh, you gotta keep playing. You gotta keep playing. I'm like, what? He's like, no, you gotta keep playing. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you gotta go back to the team. And I'm like, how do you know? Like, how do you know all this happened? He's like, never mind that. Like, you gotta keep playing. And I'm like, I don't know, coach, like the situation. And he just cut me off and he was like, if you're not gonna do it for yourself, do it for me and do it for your team, like your teammates. And like after that, like I was like speechless. I was like, okay, I have to do this.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
not it's just bigger than basketball at that point. It's just kind of keeping the bond. Like again, those are my friends to this day. So um like if it wasn't for that call, like I don't know what would have happened. I mean, my instinct, I probably would have got back at some point because I knew that in my mind that Danny would want me to do that. But for him to actually call me when he could barely even speak or put words together, I was like, okay, this is like, this is bigger than basketball. And then he was there our senior night. And like we would every game when he was like there, he came to every game really with his family, but like he couldn't really talk or really comprehend what was going on. But we would all go to him, like we would all forming a line, go up to him, run him, like shake his hand. And me and my other friend were always the last two people because we were captains. And then I was always the very last person in the line. So senior year, I'm running up to him, shake his hand, and I go to turn away, and like he's still holding on to my hand, like he didn't want to let go of my hand. And I'm like, wow, this like I started breaking down like right then and there in that moment. But that's like when I think about my favorite memory, like that's like my favorite memory of Dan because that was kind of like the last I got of him before he passed away, and then
Yeah.
to share that documentary was just like a full circle thing.
Yeah, I'm sure he's looking down, he's smiling, and he's obviously proud of you and what your
Yeah,
teammates have become. And that's really cool. I didn't know those stories, but I
yeah,
think I mean, it really goes to show how much he really cared about you specifically
mm,
when he's personally calling you and he's not, obviously his best health wise. He's calling you and he's telling you, you got to get back out there. I mean, I'm sure it's like right out of a movie. You
mm,
probably just were like, wow, I mean, forget what I'm doing tomorrow. Like I'm going to practice. Like
yep,
I'm gonna drop everything I'm doing because Coach Dan's on the phone calling me right now. I mean, I can't imagine, what that must have been like for you and obviously for him to have showed up to your senior night too. Obviously before he passed. So
yeah.
um that's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, my team even like my friends talk about it to this day. Like they were
Yeah.
like practice didn't feel the same without you. Like we didn't feel like I felt the disconnect just because of like the way I was being treated. And like I didn't care if I wasn't playing or if like I get it. If I'm like not playing well, like don't play me. Like I get it. But if I'm always working my hardest, then it was just like a treatment like that's how I looked at it. Like why I wasn't getting playing time. But then my teammates were like, we want you back just because like it doesn't feel like practice without you there. And I'm like, not only do I mean a lot to them, but it's just now that bond is forever. So just grateful for Dan. I mean, if I didn't have that, I don't know where I would be, honestly, today. So
Yeah.
and he's the backbone of what I do now. Like the reason
Sure.
why I broadcast and how I got this job now. It's like I know he's looking down one and he sparked that passion for this on camera stuff, which is sick.
Yeah, maybe he's even an inspiration for why Cam's Corner is what it is. And
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
think that's awesome. I'm sure he would have made a great guest if, you had started
Oh
that.
my
You
God.
would have
Yeah.
been, yeah, he would have probably been your first guest or something.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah,
God. His
that's
brother
awesome.
Anthony, I had him on the documentary and like I was like, he sat in this room with me and I'm like, I should I mean he could talk to a wall. Like it's literally like listen, like watching
Yeah.
paint dry. But I was like, this would be like a 3-4 hour episode if I had Anthony on. But he's a big help too. He's the best.
Yeah, that's awesome. Again, you've done an incredible job with Cam's Corner, and that documentary is all up on Cam's Corner. So, if you're watching this and you like what you've heard about the documentary, you want to learn a little bit more about it, go check it out, please. It's a great watch. But Cam's Corner, you've done an incredible job with building that up, kind of like I have with Rhody Rumble. I like to say I kind of wanted to create an opportunity for myself. I kind of tell the story, but I haven't really told it in full. So I'll just briefly summarize it
Mm.
for you. But again, freshman year, COVID. So actually, it's funny. We went to the URI Dayton game. So you're a Knicks fan. So Obi Toppin pretty
Yeah,
much
yeah,
came
yeah.
in to the Ryan Center. He blew us out. It was Obi versus Jacob Toppin. I was there in the Rhody Ruckus with my friends. I wasn't calling as many games when I was a freshman. And then the very next day, I had an Amtrak scheduled to go back to New York. That was spring break. Spring break. I think it was like a Thursday night game. Sounds about right. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday was, I guess, kind of the beginning of spring break.
Hmm.
Um, and that was also the beginning of COVID. And I actually that Dayton game was the last game I went to, or just the last time I was on campus before COVID. So, I'm like scratching my brain. I'm picking my brain, thinking like, what am I gonna do all summer? What am I gonna do? Next year, am I even gonna be
Hmm.
back at URI? And I had the idea to start a podcast. And what I tell people is I wanted to, network with people in the Rhode Island community. I'm obviously not from Rhode Island, but
Mm.
at the time I was an underclassman. I wanted to, meet the athletes I should have been interviewing my sophomore year, the coaches or the media members or, just people within the area. And I wanted to be able to obviously learn how to interview, learn how to host, to edit, get that on camera experience. And, with COVID, there were no opportunities to do that. So
Mm.
you kind of had to create the opportunity for yourself. And I mentioned the story earlier. There were really only like three podcasts at the time, like me being
Yeah,
one of them, you being the other. And I think there was one other. Yeah, because he was the one kind of, getting us on and having us do like Zoom calls every week. And it was
yeah.
great. I mean, like
Mhm.
there was nothing else to do. So we were kind of just creating this content and getting to know each other. Um, and it really is an opportunity for you to create a platform where you're able to create content, but also promote it and build the following. So, whether that's like the documentary, like we talked about, or weekly interviews, like you obviously do a great job with, and also just a place where you can share your reels or anything like that. How did Cam's Corner come all about? And what has been just the best part about this entire experience, hosting the show and really just creating this brand, not even platform, but just this brand for yourself?
Yeah, I mean the best part of it is like the people and the support. Like for the
Yep.
people to respect like how I conduct an interview or how I hold myself as a person. That's the best part. And for people just to recognize me from that, if it's at a deli in Johnston or wherever it is, that's the coolest thing. But uh, honestly, Adam, like the same thing with you. Like you started it up into COVID. I did the same exact thing. Like I told you like when we first started off, it was like I saw what you were doing with Rhody Rumble, and I loved like the interviews that you had, like the athletes that you had on. It's like, okay, this is like URI based. This is pretty sick. And then I think it was like Rhody Runback was the one that we were talking
Yeah,
with a lot.
that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, like he would talk to a lot of the high school kids. So I'm like, maybe I could put like a little spin on it where it's like it's mine and I it's like kind of like homegrown. Um, I don't know if the guy from Rhody Runback was from Rhode Island. I'm sure he was, but
I think he was. Yeah.
yeah. But I was like, maybe I could do it like Adam's doing like college guys. This guy's doing high school, or not even just college, but you're doing like guys from like URI that made it big. Maybe I could do people from like Rhode Island in specific that have like put a name to them like or made a name for themselves like outside of where they started in Rhode Island. So for Joe to be my first guest and kind of kickstart it was like super cool.
Yeah.
Um, and he was like in his second year with the Celtics at the time. So if you look back at that interview, like compared to like my last one with CJ Miles, it's like night and day. And I'm sure you can say the same thing for your first one, but it's
Yeah.
like the questions weren't bad. Like I'll give myself a pat on the back for that. Like they weren't bad, but it's like I was nowhere near like the confidence level I am now in front of a camera, just sitting down like when the record sound comes on or like the red light comes on. It's like I'm so much more comfortable. And you talked about reps when we started too.
Yeah.
Being able to do that every day. It's not like we're calling games every day or in front of a teleprompter every day, but we're talking and trying to make sense of like what's going on and what we want to do. So that was a big thing too. Cause again, I tell you at Rick, the programs weren't the best. So before like my freshman year, all of it was online. So that summer was 2021 going into like the 2021, 2022 year, my sophomore year. And I remember it was in like August or maybe even like July. And my good friends Nick and Tom Camella, that they played football at Stonehill. They've been on the pod a few times, but we were going to the beach. We were going down in Narragansett. I was driving up there, and I was telling them, I think I got like this. I got a good solid idea for a podcast. I was talking to a few people, and like I want to do it with Rhode Island. I have like the colors. Like I want to do like I was like because Johnston colors. That's the same colors as like Rhode Island, which is crazy.
Yeah. And URI obviously too. Yeah.
Right. It
Yeah.
kind of just worked out, but I can't think of a name. I don't know what to do. I can't think of a name. I think this would be like a sick start to like what I want to do. Because I always wanted to do like play-by-play stuff. Like from the jump, I wanted to just call games. And then I'm like, you know what? Like I gotta be versatile. There's no games going on. Like, what can I do? And I was like, what's a name I don't know. I like, what do you guys think? And they were like, dude, what about Camp's Corner? It's like rose off the tongue. It's super quick. I'm like, all right, that's it. Like it was just like
Yeah.
that fast. Um, because I was like a corner three, like my hot spot, like from like beyond the arc was in the corner, like in high school. Um, and they were just like, dude, that's perfect. The shoes Camp's Corner. And like my friends think I'm pretty solid with doing like voice impressions and whatnot. So like the Peter Griffin, like the corner three, like the episode where like he can't like
Yeah. Yeah.
the
I love
glitches in
that.
the corner.
Yeah.
They were like, dude, like put that in your intro. Like that'd be sick. Like get
Yeah.
a clip of you shooting a three and like put that in the intro and make that like your little quick thing. I'm like, that's sick. That's a good idea. So I give props to them for like helping me up with that idea. But
Yeah. That's awesome.
yeah, but like yeah, like the other part, like the best part is just like how many people I've met, how many people I've been able to interview.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean that's the coolest thing, and seeing
It
like
definitely is.
the growth, seeing the growth is the best part too.
Yeah. I think I was very hard on myself in the beginning and, always trying to get like at least 40 to 50 views per video and,
Yeah,
just like trying to get as many subscribers as possible and doing as many episodes as possible. And obviously now having graduated and working, it's a little bit tougher with my schedule, but when I can do it, obviously I'm not going to pass up the opportunity to do it. And I don't
Mhm.
necessarily look at like the insights or analytics, but It's not really something I want to do for myself, but I think the best part for me, similar to you, is also just the people you've met through it. I mean, I've interviewed, like you were saying, I interview a lot of Rhode Island athletes in the past, but guys who have played, and girls too, have played professionally at the University of Rhode Island, or are now playing overseas somewhere, or even have had an opportunity at the NBA level. There's still a few people I want to get on, before I even
Mm,
get to 100. Again, I haven't had the opportunity to really sit down and do it as much because of my work schedule, but um, definitely the people I've met through this entire experience. And then on top of that, I think just the ability to storytell. That's
mm,
one of the things I've always loved, doing, whether it's through my writing or whether it's through obviously now podcasting and even broadcasting too. So I think just to be able to sit down and like talk to someone about, their upbringings and, what kind of led them to the path that they're currently on now. That's definitely the most rewarding part. It's not something I do for myself. Like I
mm.
know not to knock to your not to knock your podcast or anything. I didn't want to put like my name in my podcast or anything like that. I
Yeah.
didn't want to like similar to you, I wanted to have it like Rhody something. And I know there was already obviously Rhody Ruckus was like the student, fan club, or student section, like Rhody Rampage was already an account.
Mm.
I think there was another obviously Rhody Rundown or something, or what was the other name of the podcast? It was like Rhody
Oh, the run back, right?
the run back. Yeah. So
Yeah.
there were other like, things I could have done to kind of have it like roadie something else. But
Yeah.
I think I just woke up one morning and I was just thinking like, like Bruce Buffer, like, let's get ready to rumble.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah,
was just
yeah.
thinking like it'd be cool to kind of throw that into my intro and to like, think of something like around that, but also
Mm.
to keep it like Rhode Island based. And I was just thinking Rumble, Rhody, like Rhody Rumble, a similar thing kind of rolls off the tongue. It's, it works.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and the rest is history. So,
Dude,
yeah,
I
pretty
love I
cool.
love that, dude. I love that. And I
Yeah.
use some clips of like from like the sports hub with them talking like, oh, he's got a podcast and like stuff like that. It's like, it's cool. Like it's like a little compilation. It's like a 30-second. And like Jarrett Martin played for the football team.
Yep.
Great guy, great guy. I think it was like honestly the first Friday night home game like in football history at Rhode Island. I'm pretty sure. Or like one of them. It was a Friday night game. And they won. He comes up to my camera. He's like, "Yo, what up, Cam? What we doing?" And I'm like, "This is the best like intro to like. I'm gonna put this at the start of my intro, like the soonest possible time I can do it." So like I did that, and then I made a new intro, and now it's been that one ever since. Like just people like saying like, "Oh, like tune in to Cam's Corner, whatever it is." Like it's cool. It's so cool to look
Yeah,
back
it's
at.
awesome. Yeah, you've done a great job with it. Who I guess is like a dream guest that you've always wanted to have on, or someone you'd just love to get on the podcast in the future that you haven't gotten on yet?
Carmelo Anthony, like
Great answer.
dream, like
Yeah,
long shot.
great
Carmelo
answer.
Anthony.
You no
Or
no
Mike Breen.
like no hesitation, no thought. Like
No,
Carmelo,
Carmelo for sure.
you've obviously thought about this for a while. Yeah, so we
Him
gotta make
or
it
Mike
happen.
Breen. Yeah, him or
Mike
Mike
Breen, I
Breen.
love Mike Breen. Yeah, I mean I know you had Bill Pito on. I work
Yeah.
freelance at MSG Networks in the fall. Obviously I'm working at Sirius XM right now, but when I was at to MSG in the fall after I graduated, it was kind of my first job out. Just kind of walking around the office and seeing like Alan Hahn and Wally Zerbiak, Bill Pito, and then there was actually one day I was there and Mike Breen just walks past me and one kid I became friendly with, and he's like, "Hey, how's it going, guys?" And I was just like
Yeah, that's
just like,
crazy. Oh my God.
how are you? My friend's like, yo, should I yell bang or something? I'm like, dude, come on, like we gotta keep it professional. Like, but I'm
Oh
just sitting
shit.
there like that's Mike Breen. Yeah, I've seen
Yeah.
Clyde Frazier before and Monica McNutt. Like it's an unbelievable experience walking around like a newsroom like that. Now it's Sirius XM. Like you got people like Christopher Mad Dog Russo walking around and like Adam Shine, who I personally interned for, who has been a great mentor to me. So that's awesome. We're gonna get into a lot of your experience and the internships included, aside from Cam's Corner.
Mm.
But I think just to have those experiences with some of those talent, a guy
Yeah.
like Mike Breen or Carmelo Anthony would be, I mean, for me too, as a Knick fan, a lifelong Knick fan, even someone like Jalen Brunson, I would love to sit
Oh
down.
my God. Yeah. I love
Like,
the roommates pod.
oh,
That's my one of
it's
my
the
favorites.
best. Yeah, like I would love to sit down with Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart and just hear all about the Villanova days. I don't even need to ask about the Knicks. I just want to hear the Villanova story. So
Yeah, that's
yeah.
crazy. That would be so cool. Like CJ was talking a little bit about Carmelo, so like I'm thinking about cooking up a clip of him talking about him.
Yeah.
Try to get him to like
Tag
interact
him
with
in
it.
it. Yeah, that's how
So
you do it. I saw
we'll
Rip
see.
Hamilton commented on that
Yeah,
too,
like
by the way.
that's
That's
sick.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
you got to get him on next.
Yeah, I'm trying,
Yeah.
man. I'm not like that's all you got to do. Like, just keep plugging away.
Not
Once they
stress.
interact,
Yeah.
like DM them and just keep up with it. Like
Yep.
that CJ thing took like 5, 6, not 6 months. I'd say like 4 to 5 months to like get off the ground and actually do it. So I never like stopped, plugging away, but like in a respectful way, not like I'm nagging these people, but I'm sure if like, you want to get like a certain guest and it's like, oh, they haven't answered in like a few weeks, like do I hit them back up or? But it all works out when you stick to a plan, like it all works out.
Yeah, for sure. So like me, you did everything from, writing to podcasting to broadcasting in college. You and we've talked about this very similar. I think we've become friends,
For
and kind of
sure.
share the same passion and, really want to be successful in the end. I think so you were involved in a lot throughout college, both at Rhode Island College and at URI, like myself. You did Good 5 Cent Cigar. You were in
Mhm.
WRU and ESPN Plus broadcasting, as I know. You did internships with Channel 12 and 10. And you also worked with 98.5, the Sports Hub. What has been, I guess, the most rewarding part about your, work throughout college over the last 4 years? And that includes Rhode Island College and URI. And what have these experiences taught you about yourself and what you hope to accomplish in the future within sports media?
Like, what am I the most proud of, you mean? Or
Yeah, so what has been like the most like rewarding part about having all of these experiences, and then what have these experiences taught you about, what you hope to accomplish in the future?
I mean, some like the most like rewarding is just to be able to be in it. Like I'm sure like just being like courtside for games and like having the respect of like your peers. Like not that I lean on like how other people think, but like for other people to appreciate what I do and for other people to be like Cam's a hard worker and for like to speak on my name in a positive way. Like that's everything because that is what creates opportunities. Like you want to like when I walk out of my house every day, like I'm representing like my family. So like for
Yeah.
me to be able to um for people to be like, oh, he's such a respectful person, he's a hard worker. That's everything like my parents like taught me when I was young. And even like to this day. Uh so for people to respect the work that I put in and like they see like the hard work prevail, that's super rewarding. But I've had a few like younger kids, like I say kids, like younger college students, reach out and be like, "Hey, like, how did you start your podcast?" And like just ask questions, or like even like if I would do like a little podcast that they have, like they're trying to get off the ground, like I started and how we started, um, like stuff like that. Being able to give advice to the younger generation of people, and like I say, younger generation, like I'm like like a bunch of years out of school, but
Yeah.
it's like now we're in this now. Like we have a job based off of our degree. Like we're trying to get to a higher point. So all that stuff that we did worked out. So for me to even just hop on Zoom calls with kids and for them to be like, hey, like how'd you do this? Or kind of similar to like a podcast, but it's just them like asking questions. Like they're not recording it for anything. They just want to know like for themselves. Um, that's really cool. That's like the events I've spoken at, like at Bishop Hendricken in Warwick. I've been able to speak to a group of kids a few times, like back at my old high school, speaking in front of kids. Like I never would have thought I'd be back at my high school talking about sports, and what I do. So that's probably like the coolest thing when I look at it. Like, okay, like I'm doing something right, and I just got to keep doing it and getting better at it every day.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome, man. And it kind of goes back to the point of really just giving back. So I'll be honest with you. Next question. I thought you were definitely gonna go more into the broadcasting role, into the booth, right away, and do more of the sports commentator role, which is obviously still in play. It's
Yeah.
something you may still pursue further down the road. But for now, we talked about it in the beginning. You're gonna be working in local television. Would you say your internships at Channel 12? You also interned at Channel 10. Would you say that inspired you to kind of pursue anchoring and reporting, or was that always something you wanted to kind of cross off on your bucket list?
No, yeah, for sure. It was definitely those internships. I mean,
Mm.
Maury Hirsch Gordon, Taylor Beagley, and Sam Knox at 12, like were a huge help. Sam and like in particular, because I was with Sam like every single day. And I was actually with him last night. Like he's just like now I can
Yeah,
call him like a good friend of mine. He's been like such a huge help and he's young too. So to be able to look at somebody and see like the work that they put in, and now he's sports director at Channel 12. Like stuff can happen so fast. And it's really an inspiration for myself to look at. So, but backtracking, yeah, when Maury called me and he's like, yeah, we're gonna bring you on. I was like, it's another thing to put on the resume. Like I worked in radio, I did play-by-play stuff. It's like I kind of check off all the boxes as far as like college experience goes. Like if we're not going to like a powerhouse school like Syracuse or Fordham or like those big communication schools. Like I'm at Rhode Island and I'm making the most of what I got. So, um, But I was with Sam like every day, every single day. He'd call me up like, Cam, like last minute, like you want to go to like Buttonhole and do like a golf story, and like that's not like the ideal thing, but I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Like I want to learn. Like let's go. Or he'd be like, we got to go to. I have to cover news today. Like you want to come with me and do news? I'm like, not really, but you know what? Let's do it. Like if I have to be in this situation one day, like I'm gonna go and do it.
Yep.
Because then when we would do Patriot stuff, like I'm sure you got to go to actual games. I never went to a
Yeah.
game, but I was at like every like mini camp and training camp, all that stuff. So to be able to talk with like players and to see how close Sam is with some of these guys, and he can call some of them like his friends too. It's like, that could be me one day. And he gave me good advice. Like when you get there and you're on your first few days of the job, like go up to the people that aren't really being talked to like a lot. Cause those are like, that's how you're going to build a relationship with somebody like in the locker room, as far as like an athlete. Um, so like when I would watch him do stuff, it's like, you know what, like I don't mind this, like I just want to be on camera. Like I don't know, I don't care like really what it is to start off. Like
Yep.
I just want to be on camera. And when senior year came and graduation's coming up, like not a lot of, and then I talked to Bill, and Bill was like, Cam, like I wasn't really focused on play by play. Like I knew I wanted to do like anchoring and stuff like that, but like I wanted a full-time job. Like I didn't want to freelance. Like I wanted to get somewhere and be secure and comfortable, where if I had to do freelance stuff, like I have a full-time job to kind of fall back on in a way. So when he said that, it kind of like it stuck with me since I spoke with him. I was like, you know what? Like if I want to do play by play, I can't really do it here because the URI program is with students. When big time teams go down there, it's like actual stations. So it's like there's not a lot of freelance stuff around here. So it's like I can't really freelance around the country.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? What if I get like a full-time anchoring gig? And then like once I'm out there, I want to network and try to do stuff on the side for sure. Like I haven't put that, like play by play is still like my main priority. But if something comes out of anchoring or sideline stuff, whatever it is, my main goal, I always tell you, is the NBA. Like I want to be in the
Yeah.
NBA at some point. So
Yeah.
10-year plan for myself. Like once I'm in my 30s, early 30s, mid 30s, I look at Joe as an example. Like his first big shot was in his mid 30s. He took a long time from figuring out being a player now to a coach, an assistant coach, summer league, and now he's in like the NBA, of course. So I look at myself kind of like that. Like if I give myself a few years and be patient, kind of like trust the process and soak in every moment. I'm trying to get better at that too, soaking in like every like moment and living like in the present.
All right. You have to.
Yeah.
You have to
So
soak it in. Yeah.
that's like the biggest thing I'm trying to do now. But yeah, like I would now that I have this and like I'll be out there in a week or so. It's like I'm gonna take it in stride and try to kill it as best as I can. But on my off days, I'm still gonna work and I'm still gonna network and try to get those opportunities to keep going because you never know what's gonna pop up. I'm gonna still be looking for stuff, of course. I mean, they know that. Like they said, this station is a great way to grow. Like they want to
Yeah.
see me kind of not like leave right
Stepping
away.
stone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's exactly like a stepping
Yeah.
stone. Like sometimes
Sure.
some people look at URI as like that for like a program as far as basketball. Like not like degrading the program at all, but like a lot of players, like you look at Jacob Toppin or like Jeff Doughton, like they all started their career there. I mean Jeff Doughton stayed at URI and got
Yeah. Yeah.
into the NBA, but like similar to that, like there's like stepping stones to everything. So
Sure.
um yeah, I'm just gonna keep networking. But to your question, yeah, it was never like I want to be an anchor and like Ian or Nick. Like I never wanted to do that until I was in it like that summer.
Yeah, no, I interned, as you mentioned, with ABC6, and I had a similar experience. It was an unbelievable experience with Ian and Nick. They're amazing to work with and great mentors. And
Mm.
I didn't know if it was something I necessarily wanted to do, but it was just to get those opportunities to sit in the locker room and talk to guys like Matthew Judon and like Bill Belichick.
Crazy.
And I mean, it's just unbelievable. Like I remember my first day of Patriots practice, like it was before week one,
Mm.
because I interned in the fall with them. I'm standing there and this like short guy walks by and Ian goes, "Oh, Adam, what do you think of Bill Belichick?" And I turn around and Bill's just like, "All right, how's everyone going?" And then I'm just like, oh, okay, like, all right, like the Giants fan in me is like, wow, this is interesting,
That's
but
what I said.
as like the media member, as like the journalist in me is like, wow, like I want to sit down and have a full conversation with this guy. I mean, I don't know how much he'd give me, but I know
Mm.
how much he loves the media. But I'm just thinking like it's unbelievable that I'm be able to stand on the sideline at an NFL game and be in the locker room and talk to guys like
Crazy.
Matthew Judon. And I think my first interview was Nick Folk, who was the kicker at the time.
Mm.
I don't even know if I asked him a question or two. I know Ian was mainly asking a lot of the questions, but um, I was holding the mic and just kind of I was thank you for your time, Nick, and everything like that. It was pretty cool because I got to go to the museum and like talk to Vince Wilfork. He was actually talking to, like everyone afterward, and I was like, "Hey Vince, like thank you so much for the time and
Uh,
congratulations." And it's just kind of cool to get those first hands-on experiences. So to have that same experience with Channel 12 and 10 as well, I mean it's unbelievable. And now you're going to be doing the same thing in Missouri, which is
yeah.
awesome.
Like
Yeah,
the Channel 10 stuff was more so like Rhody football, like filming stuff.
yeah,
So like I would send them like
yeah,
my packages. They wouldn't use like my on-camera stuff, but they would use all the stuff that I would film. So that was kind of uh like okay, like this is like a lot of the job is like filming and going places like like I'm sure like with you had to do like high school, like driving around like the whole state.
yep.
It's kind of like
Every
that. Like
Friday night, every
yeah,
Friday night. Yeah,
that was kind of like that. But like the with 12, my moment like that was with like Patrice Bergeron. We went to his retirement speech and like Sam was asking him a few questions and like we met him afterwards and we're talking to him for a little bit and then I met Cam Neely. I met like a bunch of people like on the Bruins organization. I'm like, this is like I get to be here like this. I'm like front row for Patrice Bergeron's retirement speech. Like it was sick.
yeah, it's awesome. So now you're off to Missouri. You're off to Joplin, Missouri, which is pretty cool. I know what this process was like for you because I have talked with you, since you've gotten the job and even before that when you were kind of going through that job search process. But for those who are watching at home, what was this process like for you, and when did you know that Joplin, Missouri would be your next home?
Stressful. Like super
Yeah.
stressful. Trying to find something like stick like right after school.
Yep.
Because like you want to get it like right after graduation. Like, oh, I graduated. I'm going here. Like a lot of kids are being like, oh, I got this job, but uh, like like honestly, I probably started in like February, like right after my birthday. I was like, or January, February, yeah. Um, no, my birthday's in March. What am I saying? But like probably like around like January, around that time, whatever it was. Just trying to like look at whatever, you know. And I was like, I don't really see a lot of play-by-play stuff. Maybe I can like get like production or something. And then like some people like Sam and people like my mentors, people that I've been like going to, they're like, dude, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do if you really want to do like on camera stuff, like if you don't have any interest in production like at all, like don't do it because like it's not like what you want to do.
Yeah.
Someone like yourself though, like you like that behind the scenes stuff and you like the on
Yeah,
camera
for
stuff too,
sure.
so like it
Yeah.
works. But I knew like I didn't want to do that at all. Like I like the editing in Cam's Corner and I'm like equipped to it, but I didn't want to like do that as my job. So I knew I wanted to get on camera and I'm like, I'm gonna keep plugging away to get it. So similar to an Econ. Um, so like, graduation's coming closer, still nothing. I had no interviews, like just like I didn't know who to apply for, what to do. And Michaela Rossi, who used to work for the Celtics, was like a classmate of mine, and now she's off to Tampa Bay to cover the Buccaneers. So like she's gonna be like a not like a reporter, but like a PR person, like as far as that, like a communications person.
Sure.
So like she was in like the locker room when the Celtics won the finals, like holding the trophy with like Derek White, and like I was like, oh my god, like that's an
Yeah.
insane. So she actually got me the interview with Drew Carter when I did that a while ago. But like to see someone like her like really pursuing like what she wants to do, I'm like, all right, it's like not impossible. Like I just got to keep plugging away like she did, and I know like the on camera stuff's tougher to get, but I had an opportunity with a station out in Idaho. Like I finally got an answer back from somebody, and they're like, "Oh, we're interested." Because I'm sure you did the same thing. Like I would apply, I would send a bunch of emails out, I would try to connect with people on LinkedIn and just say, "Hey, like my name's Cam, I applied to this," or like, "Do you have any opportunities with this?" And just like make a bunch of connections, like just after or like even before graduation. And like this station out in Idaho finally answered me. And I'm like, oh wow, like you guys cover like the jazz, you do like like some coverage of the jazz, but it's mostly like high school, like like local like TV is. And I did the first interview and like it was great. And like they toured me around the station. And I'm like, this is gonna be great. And then like I'm starting to think about it a little more. They're taking like the job process is a few weeks. So like I'm doing it like, whatever, a week or two. And then I'm like, do I really want to go out to Idaho? Like I don't know if this is like I had like a gut feeling like I was like, I don't know if this is what I want to if I want to go out all the way to there.
Yeah.
And then that week where they were supposed to give me like a definite answer, another email popped up from Missouri and they were like, hey, this is um KSN, we want to interview you for the job. And I'm like, you know what, like I was thinking honestly I was gonna turn it down because of like this Idaho gig's probably gonna be like like in the bag and I'm probably gonna get it. And then I was like, you know what, like I've had this gut feeling, I'm just gonna have it like regardless, like whatever, like they haven't offered me yet, like it couldn't hurt. So I did the interview on a Friday. I'll never forget it. My sister had her last, I mean, it was kind of recently, but my sister had her last dance competition ever. She just graduated high school. So, um, I wanted to see her, like, her final performance or whatever. And it was in Providence. So we go down to Providence. Like, well, first off, I interviewed that day with them and it went super, super well. And they were like, oh, we'll let you know, like, probably by like the end of the week. And it was Friday. So like, I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'll probably find out either today or tomorrow.
Mm.
And I was at her recital. She's doing her thing and I was super proud of her. And then uh, like, she, like, one of her numbers is done. Like, she walks off because I didn't want to look. I don't like. Well, I didn't want to look at my phone like while she was there. So, one of her numbers is done, and like there was like a little kid dance or whatever, and like my phone buzzes, and I'm like, it kept buzzing, it kept buzzing. And I'm like, oh, I gotta look at it. Like I'm just itching like to look at my phone because I wanted to find out a decision if they made one. I look at it. It's an email from the station. They're like, yeah, we want to offer you this. Like, you got the job. Like, we want you on. And I'm like, oh my God. So I show my dad and he's like, wow, that's insane. Like,
Yeah, just jump
congratulations.
out of your chair and like, you're just
No,
like,
see, like, I didn't want to tell anybody yet because I was
yeah,
like, I looked at it and I was like, wow. And I
wow,
tapped my
yeah,
dad, I showed him. And he's like, what, are you gonna take it? And I'm like, well, I got an email. I don't know like the ins and outs of it. They just gave me like an offer, like how much like they wanted to give me. Like, I don't know like what the benefits or whatever it is. So
Mhm.
I was like, yeah, like I'll take it. And then they gave me they wanted me to start like July 15th. So like her thing was on like June, I want to say like the end of June. And I'm like, that's like too soon. I'm like, is there any way I could do it like mid-August? And they were like, yeah, like we want you, we want you. So like, yeah, we'll push it back. So that was good. And once I did that, I was like, okay, like, he got me, like, I'm in. So
Yeah.
that happened, and then I didn't tell anybody for like a few weeks until I got approved for an apartment. Everything was like set in stone. And then now these last few weeks have been kind of like they've been going by slow, and I've been soaking in every day. But it's like at the same time, it's like, wow, I'm really leaving in like a few days. So
Yeah, like has it hit you that you're gonna be moving your entire life, everything, you're gonna be moving everything pretty much. Like when you go to Rhode Island College or URI, or even if you're living down at school, it's not really like you're going down the road.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
like you said, it's like it's a 40-minute drive, so it's not really like you're not really leaving the state, you're not really
no.
leaving your community, but now you're actually gonna be leaving Rhode Island. Like has it hit you yet or not really?
I would say like this week, like in
Yeah.
particular, like the last week I'm here, like fully like get to see my friends for the last time and all that. I
Sure.
mean, not for the last
Yeah.
time, but for a little bit. But yeah, I would say this week. And like I was telling Sam this the other night. I was like, I'm not nervous as far as like moving and like getting adjusted somewhere else because I knew it was gonna happen. Like I have to do this to get my start in sports. But um, I told you, like, my goal is the NBA. So I was like, I just want to make sure this is like a step in the right direction. And they're like, Cam, like, if they want you like halfway across the country, like you're gonna do like they want you, like you're doing the right thing, and
Yep.
everybody starts somewhere. So I was like, once I'm down there, like, I know I'm gonna like put my best foot forward every day. Like, there's gonna be kinks that I have to work out, but I'm ready to take whatever it is, like take the bull by the horns, just go. So the only thing I keep thinking about is like the people, and that's really, and like my dog. My dog
Yeah.
doesn't know like I'm leaving, so that's gonna suck. But
Yeah. I get
other
it.
than that, it's like just getting equipped, getting down there, and just getting ready to go.
Yeah, well, I'm fired up for you, man. I know you killed it and you've deserved and earned this opportunity. So
Thank you.
take advantage of it and it's gonna be awesome to see. And we're all gonna be following you and keeping up with your work while you're down there. I know from talking with you again, you were willing to go anywhere. Like you said, you had an opportunity potentially lined up in Idaho and
Mm.
you were even looking in New England or even going down to New York. You were looking all over for an opportunity.
Right, right.
But now you're going to Missouri. You mentioned it a little bit before we started, but you're going to be covering mainly high school athletics, but you're also might be covering the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, so it's a lot of high school and college stuff. I know
Okay.
Missouri Southern is big down there because it's close. It's closer to Joplin. I'm pretty sure it's in Joplin. I still got to get a little bit more familiar with the teams and stuff, but yeah, like any local TV news and stuff like that, it's like they love and appreciate the high school coverage, the local college coverage, but like the big time things like I'm excited for is like the Chiefs. I'll be down there a few times. My sports director, Michael Imami, he went to Syracuse. Um, and I remember he called me like the day or two after I got the job, and I was asking him like, what do we cover? And he was naming off some colleges and some high schools, and of course, I'm not really equipped to anything down there. So when he said the Chiefs, I was like, that's gonna be sick.
Sign
But
me up. Yeah.
yeah, but at the same time, like at this,
Yeah.
I have to appreciate like the little things and like the local coverage because that's where I'll
Of
get my
course.
reps because
Of
there's going to
course.
be a
Yeah.
lot of that every day. That's where I'll get the reps and that's where I'll get
Yeah.
better. So I can appreciate like the bigger things like the Chiefs like once I get down there. But I think like I could be wrong, but I think like once playoff time comes for the Thunder, like we'll be in Oklahoma because we're like 2 hours away from there. So that would be like a dream come true to be able to be on a floor and like cover an NBA team. Uh, my first gig in the industry. So we'll see when that time comes, but I know like a little bit of Chief stuff is going to be thrown in there, which would be cool. So
Yeah.
uh, I'm excited. I don't know what's to come my first few weeks or what's going to happen, but I'm excited to see what happens.
And you know that you've had this experience from working at 12 and 10. So, you know that the local stuff and the high school athletics and all of that is where you get your reps. But like
Yeah.
you said, when you get an opportunity thrown your way to cover the Chiefs, or I don't think you're covering the Royals or Cardinals or anything like that in Missouri. But even if that opportunity comes up, I mean, something you can't pass up on. Listen, man, you might be covering a Super Bowl in February. You might be,
That would
going
be
to New
insane, man.
Orleans and covering a three-peat. I mean, that would be awesome to see. Cam, I could talk to you for hours.
Yeah,
Again,
for
I
sure, man.
appreciate you taking the time. I got one question left for you. My opinion, it's the most important question, which is just the best advice you could give to recent grads. I know you are a recent grad, but people looking to get into the industry, who may be going through like a similar process that I went through and you went through, but also the process that you just went through. What is the advice you may have that you could give those people?
Yeah, just to keep going. I ask the same question a lot throughout my interviews, and it's like, because when we're talking to bigger name people, like we've talked about, and like the athletes that we've been able to talk to, it's like what is it? What was it like when you went through this? What was it like when you went through that? And like you really sit down and like hear what they have to say. And most of the time, it's just them giving advice. It's just them saying like the main message that everyone says is like just keep going. Like I've
Yeah,
never met or talked to a person that was like, it's gonna be tough. Like you should probably just maneuver out and do something that's gonna make you money. Like no, like if you have a passion for something and you truly think that you have something going for you, like just go and get it.
yeah.
A lot of the classes at URI really hammered that home. Keith LaBelle was a huge professor for me. I don't know if you had him when you were there, but
No, I didn't.
he was a great guy, great guy, and I still
Yeah,
talk to him to this day. He kind of reminded me of Danny. Like he made me want to run through a wall for him. That's how much he was like a coach. He had like that coach mentality, that coach like aura to him, and like people like that, the people around you, like um, never hesitate to invest in others because like the way that people invested in me, I want to give it back, and like I'm sure you say the same thing. You want to give it back to like whoever. So just keep going. Like, don't stop. Like when times, like if it's like, again, for me, like during graduation, I didn't have a job. I'm like, like, is this really what I have to do? Like it's sports. Like, I don't know. Like I'm not going to make a lot of money, but I'm like, just keep plugging away. Keep doing what you're doing because something's going to come up. Everybody would
got
say the
it.
same thing. So
You got it.
I would say
Yeah,
the same thing to everybody. Just keep going. Don't stop.
yeah, for sure. Well said. Let the people know where they can find you, where they can follow you. Plug your socials.
Cam's one corner, all social media platforms. Cam Iasimone, just like my regular Twitter. Oh, well, Twitter's Cam Iasimone TV. Change that now to kind of bring the anchoring part to me. I don't know. I wanted to spice it up a bit, but yeah.
Yeah,
So Cam's one corner on everything. Um, yeah, documentaries up there. All my recent interviews. So, Adam, thanks again, man. I appreciate you for having me on.
yeah. Please give this guy a follow. He's killing it right now. A lot of great interviews up on the channel. Great content, documentary, of course, across all platforms. Cam, you're the best. Again, please keep in touch. Looking forward to seeing the amazing work you're going to do down there in Missouri. Thanks again for the time. I've taken way too much of it.
No, please. I'm
Um,
happy. Happy to
and
be here, man.
of course, go Rhody. Thanks again, man.
Let's go. Go Rhody.